Hello class, this is Jenna, Joanne, and Jenn, and this is our video on teaching and critical thinking in higher education. The definition of critical thinking we are using today is the use of those cognitive skills or strategies that increase the probability of a desired outcome, thinking that is purposeful, reasoned, and goal-directed. There are many definitions of critical thinking in literature today, but most of them focus on the importance of process and outcome, or the process of thinking that leads to a certain outcome.
Critical thinking is a complex endeavor which requires students to utilize several subtasks outlined by Buskist and Irons, including first, developing a skeptical approach to problem solving and decision making, second, breaking down problems into their simplest components, third, searching for evidence supporting or refuting a given conclusion, and fourth, maintaining a vigilant attitude toward personal biases, assumptions, and values that may interfere with making an objective decision.
We're going to show you a video now. As you watch it, please consider how it relates to the concept of critical thinking.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we prepare for takeoff, please turn off all electronic devices.
Why?
What's that?
Well, why do we have to turn off our electronic devices?
Because they can interfere with the plane's navigation.
Oh, okay.
So anyway...
How?
What's that?
How do they interfere with the plane's navigation?
Oh, because the electronic signals can interfere with the signals between the plane and the radio tower on takeoff and landing.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Let's all make sure that our seats are fully upright.
Wait. I get why I can't have a radio or whatever, but how's my Kindle gonna screw things up?
That's a good question.
It's not just about radios. All devices have an electromagnetic field that can interfere with the radio frequencies.
Okay, that's cool.
All right, please make sure that all tray tables are...
Wait, so you're saying that a $90 million aircraft can't ignore the signal from my $40 iPod Shuffle?
We will now give you about 30 seconds to consider how it relates. Please think about it silently. Thank you for reflecting. Here are some of the things that we came up with in terms of the video. First, the passengers on the plane were questioning in authority figure, as you're supposed to do when you're critically thinking. Also, the members of the flight were making others question their own beliefs and thus causing them to ask more questions and be more aware of what was going on. The flight attendant is then forced to question her own assumption and biases.
There are many goals of critical thinking. Some teachers think that it teaches students to learn better, while others may argue that it teaches students to think differently. Ultimately, critical thinking is assumed to be a desirable goal, if not the principal goal of higher education. It shapes curriculum, pedagogy, and policy in the higher education classroom.
There are several barriers to teaching critical thinking. Designing a classroom environment to learn critical thinking requires a lot of time, including creating the syllabus, choosing appropriate texts, and coming up with everyday examples to incorporate throughout the term. It is difficult to measure the effects of teaching efforts and to assess the effectiveness of critical learning of students. Critical thinking is often an unpopular activity because it takes extra effort and may lead to students not liking the teacher, and teachers themselves may not know how to think critically or may not know how to teach it.
Now we'd like you to work on a case study exercise. You are a professor trying to incorporate more critical thinking into your curriculum. Your department chair mandates an assessment requirement in which you must demonstrate that your students are learning critical thinking abilities in your classroom. What tools would your assessment include to measure the students' critical thinking abilities? Please reflect on this question, and we'll get back to you in 30 seconds.
The tools for teaching critical thinking is as follows. First, teachers should use real-life examples, problem-based scenarios, intellectually challenging activities, and rigorous assignments. Also, they need to overcome the barriers that students feel with critical learning by using force and aggression. Teachers also must be consistent in how they're teaching critical thinking. They can transcend to various disciplines, but it's not a requirement. Also, teachers need to examine their own biases and assumptions when teaching critical thinking, as well as foster an environment where students can feel they can agree or disagree with either the teacher or other students. The teacher also needs to be able to challenge students' opinions and beliefs.
There are many resources for educators to use in teaching their students how to think critically. During the academic year, Buskist and Irons suggest to share their goal of achieving critical thinking with students early on in the year. They also suggest to give out weekly critical thinking assignments, along with in-class problem-based scenarios that students can discuss in groups. In addition, it is suggested that teachers maintain a consistent development of critical thinking throughout the whole academic year, as opposed to making it a momentary fad.
Educators should ask questions at the beginning of class to prepare students for the upcoming lesson. They should then ask the same questions at the end to see what students have learned. In addition, the teacher should ask the class to remind them of the material from the week before so that the students can remember what they had talked about. Also, the professor or teacher should ask students about the material that they've learned in other courses and then work to relate it to what they already know. Finally, writing is a good tool for memorizing the material and it allows for further reflection. Here are the references that we used. Thank you very much for watching.